Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Smile Sessions. Thank you for following along with me on my journey, and I hope you're finding my podcast sessions to be positively impacting your life in some small way. I encourage you to engage with me on social media, and if you're comfortable, share some of your experiences and offer tips and tricks along the way. Remember, we are creating a positive community to help one another heal and be the best versions of ourselves. Last week, I shared Leo's first audiology results along with our lovely pediatrician's office. This week, I'm going to discuss Leo's second hearing test in the community, why doctors measure the baby's head circumference, and amazing tips I followed from the book, The Essential C-Section Guide. After my C-section, I wanted to do whatever necessary for me to get my body back to the way it was prior to my pregnancy. Listen, I was being realistic. I knew it wasn't going to happen overnight, but I was eager to educate myself because, you know me, I'm a planner. I have to keep learning and growing. So I picked up the book, The Essential C-Section Guide. There was a specific topic that stood out to me, and that was pelvic floor health. It is an important aspect of recovery after a C-section. Even though the surgery itself doesn't directly impact the pelvic floor muscles, as much of the vaginal birth might, here are some key points to consider. The formation of scar tissue from C-section can affect the fascia, a connective tissue that links various parts of the body. This can lead to restrictions and tension in the pelvic floor muscles. The superficial abdominal fascia, which is cut during a C-section, connects to the pelvic floor. Restrictions in this area can lead to issues such as urinary incontinence and pain during sex. During pregnancy, the pelvic floor muscles support the growing weight of the baby. Without the natural stretch of a vaginal birth, these muscles can remain tight, leading to pain and weakness. The pain from the surgery can cause the pelvic floor muscles to tense up, which can result in urinary issues and discomfort during sex. The pelvic floor works with the core muscles to manage pressure within the abdominal cavity. Poor pressure regulation can lead to symptoms like prolapse and incontinence. Start with low-intensity activities, such as walking and gentle pelvic floor exercises. These can help rebuild strength and flexibility without putting too much strain on the body. Consider seeing a pelvic floor physical therapist who can provide personal exercises and techniques to address any issues related to scar tissue, tension, or weakness. Staying hydrated and maintaining a balanced diet can support overall recovery and muscle function, including the pelvic floor. Be very mindful and demure with your movements. I couldn't resist. And avoid heavy lifting or strenuous activities until your body has had adequate time to heal. Gradually increase activity levels as recommended by your healthcare practitioner. If experiencing discomfort during sex, using a postpartum friendly lubricant can help alleviate any dryness and reduce pain. That would be a water-based lubricant that is pH balanced, free from harsh chemicals, and even natural and organic lubricants are an option. Understanding and addressing pelvic floor health is crucial for a smooth recovery and long-term well-being after a C-section. I saw a pelvic floor therapist after being cleared by my OBGYN, and she did a lot of fascia tissue massage. After a C-section, the body forms bands of internal scar tissue called adhesions as part of the healing process. These adhesions can cause the fascia, a connective tissue, to stick. Here are some of the reasons why this happens. When the body heals from surgery, it naturally forms scar tissue. This scar tissue can bind together different tissues and organs, leading to adhesions. Surgery can cause inflammation, which, if not properly resolved, can lead to the formation of adhesions. Inflammation is a common response to trauma, including surgical procedures. Fascia contains millions of nerve endings and smooth muscle cells, which can contract and tighten when injured or traumatized. This can cause the fascia to stick and form adhesions. Adhesions can restrict the movement of the tissues and organs, leading to pain and other complications. This is why it's important to address adhesions through physical therapy or other treatments. Understanding these factors can help in managing and preventing complications related to adhesions after a C-section. I read that working out prematurely could have major implications, one being uterine prolapse. Although extremely rare, excessive physical activity can contribute to uterine prolapse, where the uterus descends into or outside the vaginal canal due to weakened pelvic floor muscles. To avoid these complications, it's crucial to follow your healthcare provider's advice on activity levels and gradually increase your physical activity as your body heals. Always listen to your body and avoid lifting heavy objects or engaging in high-impact exercises until you get the all clear from your doctor. I'm now going to take you back to a nice day in September when we set out for Leo's hearing test with public health. I remember them saying it's best if the baby is sleeping for the test, reason being it helps to obtain more accurate results. When sleeping, the baby is less likely to move or make noise, which could interfere with the test recordings. So, of course, when we arrived to his appointment, Leo was wide awake. We get to the testing room, and the woman looks at me and says, "Oh, he's awake?" I'm thinking in my head, "Okay, Captain Obvious." Which she's proceeded to say, "He's supposed to be sleeping." In which I responded with, "I'm really sorry. My 2-week-old baby just won't listen to instructions." The sarcasm in my voice was real. It's true, new moms are really irritable, but for obvious reasons. This was already an issue that was stressing me out. I really didn't appreciate her stating the obvious. So, that was off to a great start, and you can probably guess where this is going. Leo failed his test again. We were now being referred to a hearing clinic for follow-up tests. At this point, I'm thinking I'm to blame for this. Maybe I was playing the classical music on my belly too loud through the headphones. I was in new mom freakout mode. What's the first thing you do when you are going through something? You Google it. I needed to prepare myself for what I was to expect next. I'm a little neurotic in that regard. It's the Capricorn in me, and my way to feel like I'm somewhat in control. I'm starting to recognize a pattern here. I think I might have some control issues. Okay, I better book an appointment with my therapist because I don't think we've really explored this area yet. Anyways, while patiently waiting for his next hearing test, I had to follow up again with the pediatrician with Leo's scheduled appointments. At his 6-week checkup, the doctor mentioned that his head circumference was a big jump from week to week. As I was a little confused, I had no idea where she was going with this. To explain, doctors measure the circumference of an infant's head to monitor their brain growth and development. Here are some of the key reasons why this measurement is important. The size of the infant's head reflects the growth of their brain. Rapid brain growth occurs in the first few years of life, and tracking head circumference helps ensure that the brain is developing properly. Measuring head circumference can help identify conditions like microcephaly, a smaller than normal head size, or macrocephaly, a larger than normal head size, which can be indicators of an underlying medical or developmental issue. Regular measurements allow doctors to track the baby's growth over time and compare it to standard growth charts. This helps in identifying any deviations from the expected growth pattern. The measurement is taken by placing a flexible tape measure around the largest part of the baby's head, just above the eyebrows and ears and around to the back of the head. This is simple, non-invasive, and it provides valuable information about the baby's overall health and development. The doctor was concerned that Leo's head was growing too quickly, and then, when she was informed he failed his hearing test again, she wanted us to take Leo to have x-rays done on his head. I get this doctor is trying to prove herself. She was young and building her practice, but in my gut, this didn't seem like the right option. Mother's intuition never steers us wrong. So I texted a good friend of mine. Stephanie and I were high school friends and remained connected in social circles, but motherhood bonded us. Stephanie had a C-section 2 months prior. I had asked her how she liked her daughter's pediatrician, and she had nothing but positive things to say. And lucky for us, he was accepting new patients. He is a seasoned pediatrician who is on the board of directors at Sick Kids Hospital. So our following visit, I provided the doctor with this information so Leo's file could be transferred. Believe me, I was so happy to leave this place and never look back. The experience really left a sour taste in my mouth. Our first appointment with his new doctor, the experience was incredible. From the lovely, kind receptionist to the doctor, this was where Leo was going to receive the best care. The doctor eased my concerns about the rapid head growth, as he said that there is a commonly higher increase at 6 weeks. At around 6 weeks old, babies often experience a significant growth spurt, which rapid brain development. This period is marked by several key changes. At around 6 weeks old, babies often experience a significant growth spurt, which includes rapid brain development. This period is marked by several key changes. The brain is forming new neural connections at an incredible rate. These connections are crucial for sensory perception, motor skills, and cognitive development. There is a surge in synaptic growth, which helps in the processing and transmission of information within the brain. Babies become more responsive to their environment, showing more interest in sounds, sights, and interactions. Stimulation further promotes brain development. Around this time, babies start to achieve important milestones like smiling, cooing, and improved head control, all of which are indicators of brain development. These changes are part of the natural progression of the brain development, laying the foundation for future learning and cognitive abilities. I was so thankful to have been given such an excellent referral, and he also just wanted me to update him on his next hearing test, but he didn't appear to be concerned, which helped to calm me down as well. In October, Leo had his hearing test at the clinic. The audiologist was this young woman who was great in educating me with the steps prior to beginning the testing procedure. Once again, Leo was awake, like almost laughable, but not really, when you're going through it. I had brought formula in a thermos so that I could feed him in hopes that he would fall asleep. But of course, that didn't happen. So we had to do the test while he was in my arms, and I was with him in this dark little testing room with a nursing pillow so that we could complete this test. Following the test, the doctor informed me he failed again. I was beyond frustrated. How are we going to get an accurate test done? She mentioned that currently he could hear, but not at the volume he should. It was more of a muffled sound. She did book us in for one more test before exploring other options. Prior to that test, I was speaking to my chiropractor. She said, "Why don't you bring him in? I can work on him and see if we can get some things moving." After much convincing with my partner, he agreed. He doesn't always agree with alternative medicine, but after showing him her website and him joining me at Leo's first chiropractic appointment, he was more comfortable with the idea. That same night, we were bathing Leo, and I noticed that there was this white, creamy mucus that came out of his ear. I wondered if maybe that was causing his hearing issue. When we returned for his test, Leo was much more cooperative. He ate, he pooped, of course, and passed out like a typical man. When the audiologist reviewed the results, we were given good news. He passed his test, and we would no longer require additional services. I was so relieved. A huge weight had lifted off of me. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Smile Sessions. I hope you found our discussion on Leo's second hearing test, the importance of measuring head circumference, and the invaluable tips from the Essential C-Section Guide, both informative and comforting. Remember, our journey is about creating a supportive community where we can share our experiences and help each other grow. Don't forget to connect with me on social media and share your stories, tips, and tricks. Together, we can continue to build a positive space for healing and becoming the best versions of ourselves. Until next time, keep smiling and stay strong.